The shrill wheo-wheo of a police siren ripped through the quiet morning, then stopped with a crunch so sharp it snapped me out of whatever daydream I was nursing over my coffee. I dropped my mug, shattered all over the tile, but I barely noticed and bolted outside, not even thinking to grab shoes. Right there in front of my house sat a county sheriff's cruiser, absolutely pancaked beneath the massive trunk of my old oak. Smoke curled out from under the hood, blue lights flickering under a mess of splintered wood, flashing in frantic, stubborn bursts like the car itself couldn't decide whether to live or die. And there, standing beside the wreckage with her hands locked on her head, was Deborah Frost, the self-appointed queen of our HOA. Same woman who, not 8 hours before, had ordered that very tree cut down. Pink blazer, hair blown wild, sawdust clinging to her shoulder pads, and disbelief written all over her face. You couldn't have staged a better scene if you tried. The universe, as it turns out, is a mean-spirited playwright with perfect comedic timing. That right there, that's the moment our petty little feud stopped being some sitcom spat and became neighborhood legend. And believe me, you are not going to believe what happened next. You'd think a tree flattening the sheriff's ride would be a wake-up call, maybe. Just maybe. Picking fights with nature isn't the best hobby for folks with too much time and not enough sense. But this mess started long before that morning. Way before Deborah Frost got it into her head that a clipboard could rewrite history. See, I moved to Oak View Hills thinking I'd finally found peace. I'm a landscape architect guy who spends his life planting things, helping stuff grow. That oak tree? It had stood nearly a century. Roots so deep they probably hit bedrock. Its branches shaded half the block. That tree was more than just a tree, it was an anchor. It held the hillside, managed runoff so Deborah's beloved roses didn't drown every time it rained. I used to joke it would outlast all of us, HOA and all. But then Deborah took over. If you've never lived under the reign of a real HOA president, let me paint the picture. Blonde highlights too sharp for her age. Pastel blazers so bright you'd think she got dressed by sticking her hand in a box of sidewalk chalk. A personality that could turn a block party into a deposition. And that voice, shrill and nasal, brimming with the authority of a laminated badge that just read, HOA president. Her predecessor, old Mr. Grayson, at least had a sense of humor. Deborah? She liked control. In her first month, she'd banned basketball hoops, handed out citations for non-standard mailbox paint, and wrote up a widow for having a wind chime that was too cheerful. So, no, I wasn't exactly shocked when she finally came for my oak. It started with a letter taped to my door. Official HOA letterhead. Violation notice. Unapproved vegetation structure section 3. 4. Tree obstructs uniform sight line from curb and may impact property value. I couldn't help but laugh. Unapproved vegetation structure. Like I was hiding a marijuana farm behind my shed. I figured it had to be a mistake. Walked across the street, letter in hand. Deborah was on her lawn, watering petunias like she personally owned the water table. Morning. Deborah. Got a violation notice about my oak. Sure it's not a mix-up? She didn't even look up. Just flicked her sunglasses down her nose like I'd farted during a funeral. Not a mix-up. The tree disrupts the uniform elevation line from the road. We're standardizing neighborhood visual symmetry. I blinked. Visual symmetry. Deborah? It's a 90-year-old oak. Not a billboard. It blocks the view of the Frost residence, she said, as if her house belonged in a travel brochure. First impressions matter. She sniffed. When buyers drive through. I grinned. Planning to sell? Her eyes narrowed. Not relevant. Compliances. That's when I realized it wasn't about the tree. Not really. It was about Deborah needing to win. So I did what any rational person does when the pink blazer police show UPI, documented everything. Photos. Lot survey. County arborist's report. The works. That tree was protected by environmental code. Grandfathered in before the HOA was even a twinkle in anyone's eye. I dropped a packet of evidence in her mailbox. Sent her a certified letter. I thought that would be the end of it. Oh, I underestimated her. Deborah posted a photo of my yard on the HOA Facebook group. Captioned, unsightly overgrowth threatening property values. The comments? You'd think I was raising alligators back there. Looks dangerous. Probably full of termites. I guarantee half those folks hadn't walked within 20 feet of my fence. But in HOA land, perception is gospel. And Deborah could twist a rumor like a lawyer twists a statute. A few nights later, I caught her creeping by my fence with a flashlight, scribbling on her clipboard like she was writing up a crime scene. Next morning, second notice, final warning. Failure to comply will result in HOA action. That's when I knew. This was war. I put up cameras, signs, the whole 9 yards. Smile? Deborah, you're on camera. Petty? Maybe. Effective? Absolutely. Didn't matter. When someone threatens a Karen's sense of power, she doesn't back down, she doubles down. 3 days later, I heard chainsaws. I thought, no way. But there they were, 2 workers in orange vests. Ropes in hand. Deborah supervising. Arms crossed. Already acting like she was on the cover of Suburban Justice Weekly. What the hell are you doing? I shouted. The older worker looked nervous. Ma'am said it's HOA-approved removal. I turned to Deborah. You don't have the authority. She waved her clipboard. Section 5 allows emergency removal of hazardous vegetation. Hazardous? That tree was solid as a rock. She smiled that little smirk. Then sue me. I started recording. The workers hesitated. Ma'am, you sure? Cut it now. The saws roared. Branch by branch. They took it down. By the time they were done, my yard looked like a war zone, splintered limbs. Earth ripped up. A stump where a giant once stood. Deborah stood over the mess like she'd slain a dragon. You just broke county law. I told her. She laughed, brushed sawdust off her blazer. No, Ethan. I saved the neighborhood. I didn't yell. I just looked her dead in the eyes. Hope you kept the receipt. Deborah. See? Those roots weren't just holding up my hill, they were holding hers, too. And rain was in the forecast. I gathered my evidence, video, contractor info, her on tape saying, then sue me. But the universe had other plans. That night, thunder rumbled. Rain came. Slow at first. Then pounding. Soil started to glisten. Then shift. By dawn, I knew Deborah was in for a lesson only gravity could teach. 12 hours of rain. The hill behind her house turned to pudding. I woke up, pulled on my boots, and checked the yard. Me stump stood there, sad and hollow. But the real problem was a crack running down the slope behind Deborah's house. Deep, snaking toward her patio. Just after 9, my doorbell rang. Sheriff Brad Hanlon, big guy. Smells like cologne and old money. Friend of Deborah's late husband stood there looking less than thrilled. Morning. Ethan. Got a report about a property dispute. Yeah. Brad. She had my protected oak cut down. He shrugged. She claims it was a hazard. She an arborist now? He shrugged again. That cop face that says he's not picking side, but he already had. Come see before you decide. He followed me out. Saw the stump. Saw the crack in the hillside. His face changed. That's quite a tree. Those roots held up your buddy's house. Brad. She's a storm away from a mudslide. You threatening her? No. Nature is. He took photos. Promised to mediate. Then slogged off to Deborah's porch. I watched her wave her arms and yell. He's lying. Brad. He films me all the time. She wasn't wrong. I just had reasons. After they left, I sent everything, photos. Video. The Codito, the county environmental office. Mark Dawson replied in an hour. We'll inspect in the morning. Finally, someone with sense. That night, more rain, midnight thunder, and a crack like a gunshot. Deborah's retaining wall split open. Mud started to ooze downhill. By morning, her patio was tipping toward my fence. And off course the sheriff's cruiser. Parked right where it shouldn't be. Sat waiting for a show. By 8:40, Mark Dawson arrived. County truck. Clipboard in hand. Deborah was already out there. See? She yelled. His tree's roots caused this. Mark just shook his head. Ma'am, records show you ordered the removal. I did no such thing. He held up a tablet. Security footage. Her mouth snapped shut. Suddenly, the air changed. The slope shifted a log. Waterlogged. Slid. Bounced. Slammed down onto the sheriff's cruiser. Metal screamed. Siren wailed. Mud flew. Mark Dawson jumped back. Deborah shrieked and landed face first in the mud. Brad just stared mouth open at what used to be his car. I lifted my phone and filmed. Guess the tree was a hazard after all. I said. Brad spun on me. This isn't funny. It wasn't meant to be, but it sure feels like justice. Within an hour, the place looked like a circus. Caution tape, county inspectors, neighbors gawking from their windows. By noon, the HOA Facebook group had a video called HOA President's Tree Disaster Crushes Sheriff's Car Instant Karma. Viral in hours. Mark Dawson pulled me aside. We'll file this as unlawful removal of protected vegetation, plus property damage. Serious enough for charges? At minimum major fines. Possibly civil liability. Deborah overheard. Wait. I didn't know. Mark cut her off. Contractors have your instructions on video. That night, as the rain finally quit, I sat on my porch and watched the emergency lights fade. Police tape circling my stump like a crime scene. Deborah's house was dark. The storm was over. For now. I didn't know then that the real collapse was just beginning. Teenagers posted drone footage of the cruiser to TikTok 100,000 views by breakfast. News vans rolled in. Reporters sniffing for scandal. Brad showed up again, rain gear. But no dignity left. We're investigating property damage. Ethan, you want the footage? Or should I send it to your insurance? Deborah tried to play the victim. Your tree destroyed county property. I sipped my coffee. Funny. I thought your authorization destroyed my tree. Mark Dawson shut it down. You didn't just break HOA rules. Deborah, you broke state law. Silence. Brad looked at her, realizing he'd been played. By noon, Channel 7 was broadcasting the stormy phone blowing up with neighbors laughing. Old friends calling me HOA Whistleblower of the Year. But behind the jokes, I felt tired, relieved. Yeah, but mostly tired. Shouldn't have taken a crushed patrol car to prove what was obvious. Unchecked power always collapses. Always. Later that night, Brad showed up on my porch alone. Ethan, if you keep pushing this, it's going to get ugly. Lawsuits. Politics. Ugly started when she trespassed with chainsaws. Brad. He shook his head, muttered something about county contracts, then left. I walked out to the stump. Moon shining silver on the jagged wood. For the first time, it felt peaceful, but I knew Deborah wasn't finished. People like her don't apologize. They plot. Within days, the county condemned her yard. Insurance refused to pay. HOA board called emergency meetings. Whispers flying embezzlement. Fake invoices. Deborah's beautification fund missing thousands. The board voted to suspend her. Neighborhood group chats lit up with confetti emojis and falling tree memes. The new president, Patricia Lane, came by with cookies and an envelope. The board was naming the replanting initiative after my oak. For the first time in weeks, I felt a little joy. Deborah moved out under the weight of lawsuits and fines. Her Range Rover rolled away, leaving only ruts and wet asphalt. She left behind an empty house and an even emptier reputation. A month later, as we planted a new sapling, neighbors shook my hand. Kids played where the mudslide had been. Patricia handed me a bronze plaque. Roots run deeper than rules. I set it at the base of the young oak and felt closure settle in. The lesson? You can't rip out roots without the ground remembering. Control isn't stability, real strength bends. Endures. Grows back stronger. When someone tries to cut you down, let your roots, your integrity do the talking. Truth waits. It weathers. And eventually, it wins. So, if you're watching this, drop a comment. Ever faced an HOA nightmare? Do you think karma always finds its target? Tell me where you're watching from. And if you've ever had to stand your ground and let anyone, pink blazer or not, make you doubt what's rightfully yours. Hit subscribe. Because, trust me, in Oakview Hills, there's always more where this came from.